United States also, because a few years ago we had a scare called the anthrax scare. And there's only one drug for anthrax, and that's called Cipro. Cipro is manufactured by a company called Glaxo, and Glaxo was selling Cipro tablets in the United States for $5 per tablet. But there were not enough tablets in the United States for making everybody secure. So the US wanted to import these drugs from Canada, which is next door, where Glaxo is also manufacturing Cipro and where it is selling Cipro at only $1 per tablet, as opposed to $5 a tablet in the United States. And Glaxo refused to allow the US government to allow the import of Cipro tablets from Canada on the grounds that they had a patent in Canada and a patent in the United States, and that the two could not be mixed. So you see extra profits being made by a pharmaceutical company once again out of a terrible disease which is called anthrax. So what is the solution? We know the problem. The solution, first of all, is that public health has to be given much greater priority. And it's a question of official national policy. It's a question of community policy. All communities have to be interested in the fact of health much more than in the fact of security and safety. Unfortunately, communities also have to realize that health is an industry, and that sometimes you have unhealthy products but which create a lot of jobs. The example of this is the tobacco industry. All of us know that tobacco is cancer giving. In other words, a cigarette is just a device for getting cancer. And in other words, cigarette companies are selling cancer. But they are very profitable companies and they have a lot of jobs. And they give solid profits and solid salaries for people who pay for them, who work in them. And so the question is for each one of you to answer: would you accept a job in a tobacco company, a job which is above, in which you can get a fabulous salary, knowing nevertheless that the end product of your salary is selling cancer to the common public? It's a moral question. And you have to decide on the global health policy problem of morality behind jobs on the one side and end product dangers on the other. Now that brings me to civil society, because this is not a problem just for the government. Governments can do it, they can't do it, they're not very good in most countries. And so citizens have to come in, and you are the citizens. In other words, you are civil society. I am absolutely sure that global health policy cannot be put on the right track without stronger participation from civil society, community health groups, etc. And so the problem is, how are you going to step up your actions? Now, one way, incidentally, and it's a very unusual way, and unfortunately I see most of it both in India and Pakistan, because these are countries that I know. The high level of public philanthropy, both in India and in Pakistan, is absolutely astounding. In Pakistan, you have a totally free philanthropic organization. Total public, no government, no industry, totally private funded. The way Mr. Obama's campaign is being funded in this country. And it has established 15 eye care hospitals in the country. 1.5 million people, I repeat, 1.5 million people in Pakistan are being treated every year for everything from eye care to cataract surgery to lenses to LASIK, etc. 100% free. Whether you are rich or you poor, you walk into one of those hospitals, they have the best eye care and it is provided to you totally free. Now that is extraordinary philanthropy. And that is what I mean by communities organizations, civil society, stepping up to the plate in order to take care of problems of which governments themselves are either incapable or unwilling to take on. And then you see, too much of our health is a question of crisis management. Suddenly we realize that there's something called AIDS and everybody shifts focus to AIDS. Suddenly we realize something called SARS and everybody started talking about SARS, even though in all, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 people only died. Everybody then started talking about avian flu, and nobody has died till today from a transmission of avian flu from birds to human beings. And yet there is a scare and money is being spent. And so crisis management is fine. We have to take care of crises when they come. But crisis management is not a substitute for policy, and particularly for preventive health in trying to improve proper policy formulation in global health. And so let me end that normally, we talk so much about wars all the time. And there is a phrase which keeps coming up, which says, democracies don't go to war. In other words, if you can find the magic formula of democracy, then all wars will come to an end. I would like to change that formula and say, countries which give proper care to public health don't go to war either. And you will see that countries which put due importance to public health are far more reticent in going towards war than those who see this as not a public health issue. That's all that I wanted to say. I will now leave it to you to ask me questions and put me on the spot, and I hope you will. And we shall start with Lee Hai for 2 questions together, which I will answer, and then go on to Lockhaven. Over to Lee Hai.
Good morning, Mr. Ambassador. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, sir. I'm interested in questions about research funding for new drugs that would be used in primary care and the diseases that are so endemic throughout the rest of the non-developed world or less than rich countries. What kinds of approaches does the World Health Organization advocate? In the United States, for example, we have the orphan drug rules that if some company is going to work on an orphan drug, they can get some priorities and so forth in the FDA approvals process. But in general, how could the research be expanded throughout the rest of the world, either from the United States or from other countries, for these drugs that would be so helpful for healthcare at a primary level? What does the World Health Organization suggest?
Thank you. Would you like a second question from Lee Hai?
Yes, please.
I have a question, and it's on the feminization of AIDS. We hear a lot about how AIDS is becoming an increasing problem amongst women in Africa, and that's largely due to the issue of migration. Does UNAIDS have any specific programs established to address this issue of AIDS being an increasing problem amongst women? And also, what are some of the current initiatives that are taking place to address the issue of AIDS in Africa in general?
Right. On the first of these two, this is a fundamental question between R&D expenditures and the direction of R&D. And we know that it's a major problem. It's a major problem because of 2 or 3 factors which come into play. The first is that the countries where major research and development is being done are free market capitalist countries. In other words, R&D is being done by corporations which are there for profit and not for welfare. Now this creates a conundrum then, that you have a company whose job is not to do research, but whose job is to make a profit. And they want to make a profit through research on pharmaceuticals. And as a result, great drugs have been developed. They're absolutely extraordinary drugs which are coming out. But these drugs do not go into the primary healthcare direction, because they go into the tertiary healthcare direction for the simple reason that primary healthcare is not going to